From Studio B at the WDSU Broadcast Center in New Orleans, 6 is on your side live. Good evening, I'm Norman Robinson. We begin tonight with a policy decision in St. Bernard Parish that some electricians are calling downright dangerous. We've all been told we need to replace electrical wiring in homes that flooded. But in St. Bernard, they're saying you may be able to skip that step. So, is that safe? 6 on your side live correspondent Camille Whitworth investigates.
Homeowner David Hood is rewiring his entire home for safety reasons.
This is the bad wire. Why is this bad? Because this is not PVC?
It's not PVC. It's not up to code. If you feel it, you'll feel it sticky and gluey.
It's a replacement job that costs thousands of dollars, not to mention time.
But from a safety point of view, this is what they told us to go with. This is what the parish wants. This is what your electrical contractors are using. This is what we're buying.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Simple as that, okay.
But now, 6 on your side live has learned this, that in St. Bernard Parish, you may be able to skip that step. Parish President Junior Rodriguez breaks it down, saying not everyone has to completely rewire their home if the wiring is covered with a PVC coating.
They need to change their receptacles, their light fixtures, and whatever came in contact, not only with the salt water, but the salt air itself. You know, your receptacles, your switches, and those issues.
Is this safe, Mr. Rodriguez?
Well, certainly it's safe.
The parish is basing their decision on a few factors.
My concern about the whole issue, and why I tell you it's safe, is because during Hurricane Betsy, most people back then didn't change their wiring.
From then to now.
Right. And the fact is, I told you, we already ran our own test.
The parish president says he tested the PVC-coated wiring himself.
We actually took some wiring and put it underwater with a dye for over 2 weeks, and it didn't penetrate the wire. So we don't have a problem with the wiring. You don't have to replace your wiring. Only if you're in a position where you have an older home and you have that old wiring.
The basic rule of thumb is if it's wired within the last 10 years, it doesn't have to be rewired.
But how safe is leaving flooded out wiring inside of your home? How long will it last? We asked electrician James Gonzalez.
Copper's not going bad underwater, okay?
Even electrical?
Even electrical.
But there are some who question this way of rebuilding.
It doesn't seem like a very prudent approach. It doesn't seem a very conservative approach. It doesn't seem to have maybe everybody's interest.
Electrician John Watts has some concerns.
Well, if you're going to err, it's better to err on the safety side and, of course, replace it. You know, the walls are all open, so now's the time to do it.
Watts isn't convinced that keeping the old wires is safe.
If it was my home, I would prefer that all the wire was changed, because we don't know what's going to happen with it.
But President Rodriguez isn't worried, saying it saves time and money.
So far, so good. We haven't had any problems at all.
In St. Bernard Parish, Camille Whitworth, 6 on your side live.
Again, what needs to be replaced? Your receptacles, fuse box, and switches that were damaged during the storm. On the 6 on your side live hot seat tonight from St. Bernard Parish, Councilman Craig Tafaro, and from Stewart Electrical Services, electrician and owner Jude Respino. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Let's start with you, Mr. Tafaro. We're assuming this rewiring position is now parish policy. What is it actually?
Well, it's the policy of our community development office, where we permit electrical work and rebuilding efforts.
How much thought was put into this?
Well, the thought actually goes into several factors. The cost obviously is one. The major factor is we want residents to be able to take some ownership in the rebuilding of their home or the rehabilitation of their home. We want them to make sure that they're consulting with a reputable licensed electrician. So we haven't eliminated a process where a licensed professional is making the decision in consultation with the owner. And I want to make sure that this is understood, that this doesn't apply to anything but single-family dwellings. And the code has to be followed. So if wiring is out of code, then there's no question about what has to be done. The electrical wiring has to be brought up to code.
Well, let's ask Mr. Respino. You're an electrical expert. Your analysis of what's happening here. Here's what Parish President Junior Rodriguez is saying about wiring and rewiring. Quote, my concern about the issue and why I say it's safe is because during Hurricane Betsy, most didn't change their wiring, and plus, we ran our own test. End quote. Your reaction?
Well, just to play off of what was just said here, the homeowners have to follow the National Electric Code. The National Electric Code clearly states that Romex type NMB wire is not approved for damp locations. And Section 334 specifically says here it's not approved and it shall not be used in wet locations. That's red flag number one.
And so what does that mean? Does that mean there's some kind of teeth in that particular
Well, that's the national
rule?
That's the National Electrical Code, and it's co-founded with the NFPA.
What about that, Mr. Tafaro?
We have no problem with that. We're not challenging the code at all. What we're saying is the code has to be followed, and the licensed electrician needs to make that call in consultation with the homeowner.
But you obviously are saying there are some exceptions.
There are, when the code is met, if the wiring that is in the house meets the code, we're not saying automatically you have to replace the entire wire. We're not saying that everyone has to rewire their entire house if that appropriate wiring is already present in the house.
Do you have a problem with that position,
Well,
Mr. Raspino?
I don't think the folks making this decision are qualified to make it. I don't think they get what I just said. If the wiring got wet, it already violates the National Electric Code, and it's co-founded by the NFPA, which is National Fire Prevention Association, the Fire Prevention Association. So this code of experts published this manual for us to follow, and inspectors are supposed to uphold
So you're
it.
saying no matter what happened, if that wiring got wet, it's a violation of the code?
Exactly.
And Mr. Farrow?
Well, I'm not here to debate the code. What I do want to point out is that there are other factors here that we must consider. One, until someone brings to us a scientific-based evidentiary conclusion, then we're going to follow what we believe is a common-sense best judgment approach. Remember, we have a capacity issue that has to be considered. We had 26,000 homes. Yes, most of those were severely damaged. If we start creating a false market, let's face it, electricians are in the business to make money, okay? And we know that all the costs of repair have risen by at least 40%.
Raspino, you are an electrician. Are you creating a false market? Are you concerned about losing business?
No, sir. In fact, the majority of our business is in Orleans, Jefferson, and St. Tammany. We're all licensed in St. Bernard. This is not about electricians looking for work. There's more work to go around now than we need. This is about safety. Now, we talked about scientific evidence. How about Underwriters Laboratory? I mean, they're in the business to do independent laboratory tests.
That's what UL means when you see that?
Underwriters Laboratory. This symbol is practically on every appliance, electrical that you buy in your home because it's tested in a laboratory by experts in the field. And it clearly states in this pamphlet that Romex wiring that is damaged in a flood should be replaced. They put out this special pamphlet after Katrina. As you see, it's got pictures of New Orleans flooded homes. It's got evacuation route signage. So scientific evidence is here by third-party independent testing laboratories. Forget about the fact that I own an electrical company. I'm here as an industry expert.
Did you all look at that evidence, Mr. Tafaro?
Well, I think it's important to remember, and unfortunately, we're getting into a debate. I'm not going to debate a licensed electrician. The word was should, and we're not debating that at all. We're telling people, make a good, sound judgment with a licensed electrician. Now, if a licensed electrician comes in, we're under the assumption that a licensed electrician is going to follow code, which means that they will probably recommend to that homeowner change the wiring.
In 30 seconds, though, is there an inspection process that takes place after this rewiring job is done?
Yes, we do have inspectors. At this point, most of our inspection is done on a percentage basis. The licensed electrician is filing and is responsible for that work. But we are inspecting all new construction. We are inspecting all properties that are outside of the R1 zone.
All right, Mr. Raspino, Mr. Tafaro, I'm sorry, we're out of time. This discussion will have to continue at a later date. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Electrical wiring is the topic of tonight's 6 on Your Side live survey. Our question, if you weren't required to, would you replace wiring in a flooded house anyway? Right now, more than 100 people have already voted on WDSU.com, and here's what they're saying. 81% say yes, they'd replace the wiring. 19% say no. You can vote now on WDSU.com, and we'll update the results at the end of the show.